All right. We back. We back. Real educators matter. Where learning is the true superpower. Learning is the true superpower. I got a special guest today. We are celebrating Women's History Month, and so it was only befitting that we get some of the best and the brightest, some Black girl magic
Aw.
here. So, without further to do, I'm going to have her give the who, the what, and the where. Take it away.
Thank you for having me, Kyle. My name is Tamika Killins, and I'm a principal in an elementary school in Newark. I'm so
Awesome.
excited to be here. Thank you for asking me to join you.
For sure, for sure. Let the folks know how long you've been doing this thing.
So I've been this is my sixth year as a principal, and prior to that, I was in the classroom for 17 years straight. And then I was a dean, assistant principal for a little bit, and then I transitioned into being a principal.
So you got OG status.
OG
That's really what you're
status.
saying right now. Like you're not
That's
new
what
to
I'm saying
this,
without saying it.
without a
You can
doubt.
do the math.
Um, so let me ask you this: why do you do like why you in the work? Long time.
Um, that is like, when people ask me that, that's such a hard question. Like when people say like, why education? Why elementary school? And honestly, I feel like it was just something I was called to do because from the time I was born and knew like to play careers or what job do you want to have, it was always I want to be a teacher.
Hmm.
I know people always like that's your first job you play as a kid, but like I really stuck with it. I just knew from the time I was born, I just wanted to be a teacher.
Hmm.
Like I just straight wanted to be a teacher. Went to school for education. There was no other job I ever considered except Funny fact though, in 86, for 2 seconds, I wanted to be an astronomer or an astronaut or something like that. And then the Challenger happened.
Mm.
And I
Change it
was
up.
like, now I'm gonna stick with being a teacher. So I just always wanted to be in education.
Got it. Now you mentioned elementary school as opposed to the other grade bands.
Yeah.
Why are you partial to that?
Honestly, I think it was just the experiences that I had. I remember in fourth grade, like knowing up until fourth grade, I wanted to be a teacher, but then there was something about my fourth grade teacher. And I was just like, oh yeah, when I become a teacher, like I want to be her. Like she's a teacher I want to be. Like she just made learning so fun. I already like to read, but she made reading like I just wanted to like be her. I was like, when I grow up, I'm gonna be like this teacher. So I didn't really see going beyond like fourth or fifth grade.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Would you ever consider it, or you locked in at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I give you praises all the time because I don't know how you do middle school. I just like I cannot see myself in middle school or high school like at all. I taught like middle school dance at a middle school once when I was younger,
Hmm.
and that would just be like enough for me. I can't do it.
True indeed. What do you love the most about education?
Um, I like the aha moments. I used to just love them from the kids, but as I've gotten older, I love seeing them in the teachers as well, like when they're learning a new skill. I think I just like everybody thinks it's for like the kids, but honestly, like the moment that like impact matters to me and like possibility matters to me, and it's not just about like the kid passing a test or a kid doing well. When a kid does well, the whole family does well. Like it opens up so many doors for your entire family. So I just love how like kids who are doing their thing, it really changes the trajectory for their entire family. Like it
Yeah.
opens up possibilities, and then it's just about like legacy building from there. Like seeing kids that I've taught years later and seeing how like how far they've come and how like not only has it like changed their lives for the better, but it changed their whole entire family. Like I just love seeing that. So I
Hmm.
think it's just like the aha moments and the possibilities that it opens up for families and just like even the educators and the work.
Yeah. So you've been doing it for a long time. What are your thoughts on retention?
Um, what's crazy? I've worked in five different schools,
Hmm.
several districts, and it's looked different in every district. I remember the first district I taught in, my first day of school, I was a fourth grade teacher, 2000, fresh out of college. And I'm anticipating all my kids were going to be like 9, 10 years old because it's fourth grade. I had a student in my class who probably could have had a permit because the district I was in would just keep retaining you. There wasn't like a cap, like, oh, okay, we can't retain you past 2 years. And I just thought that was so crazy that I had this teenager who was like only a few years younger than me in my
Yeah.
fourth grade classroom. Prior to that, I never really thought about retention until I just started to see the inequity in it. Like, how is it okay for this 14-year-old girl to be in a fourth grade class with like 9 and 10-year-olds?
Hmm.
But like I said, every district has looked different. There's been districts where it's like, we're not retaining, or we're only going to do 1 year. And after that, we got to like figure out something else. So we're going to find alternative programs for you. I
Hmm.
do believe in it when like you've actually exhausted everything. And it's really for the benefit of the child, whether it's social, emotional, or academic, or a combination of both. But it shouldn't be like quarter one, you're already making that decision like, yeah, this kid's going to be retained. So I do believe in it to a fault, but it's like, it's got to be like last resort.
Got it. What is your take on the push and pull of like instruction versus culture? Like it's always an underlining elephant in the room oftentimes where people discuss education in different ways. And just want to get your thoughts on that.
As far as culture, in which way?
Well, there's always this like unheard argument around culture versus instruction. What's
Hmm.
more or less important? What are the differences? What people value, especially those who have decision making power.
I've seen it where people thought two could live separately, or academic trumps everything. And honestly, you got to get your culture right in your school to even consider academics important. If you're in a school where there is no culture, there is no like, just like, we don't know who you are. Like, you don't have like a thing that you're known for, or scope culture isn't like bleeding from your walls. Kids are not going to learn. And I've seen it where people have ignored it and tried to push it in a closet, or there just was no culture alive because they were so like academic driven or data driven or test results driven that culture just never found its way into the school. And those schools didn't thrive at all. I remember at one point being like, I think my first year in a leadership position, and just saying like, hey, we have to do something different because our school is not doing well academically or culturally. And I was like, we are going to put a pause on caring about academics for a minute, which I know sounds completely insane, because that's where your funding comes from. Like, parents, people want to see your academic numbers. So to say like we're not going to care about academics was really taking a risk, probably taking a risk for my job. But I was like, we have to like turn the school around culturally. We have to pour into our learning environment, um, like for 2 to 3 years before we
Hmm.
even think about caring about academics. And so like year one was just straight student culture, like really flipping our student culture around. And when our data came in, our academic data came in and it was low, it's just like, okay. But like our culture was like soaring. We were turning the school around. Referrals were getting, the list was getting shorter. Suspension numbers were like coming down, and it was just like a safe place to be. And then it was like, all right, we're still not ready to tackle academics yet, because year two, now we're gonna get this staff culture together. Because you wanted us to work on the kids, we wanted the kids to be safe, stay in the classroom, do what they were supposed to do, and we're there now. Now we're gonna work on our mindset. Year two was about staff culture. And then by year three, we were able to then say, all right, now let's like focus back on our academics. And figure out a way to marry the two. So I think that like there is no existence in a school where you're just heavily focused on academic data and your school has no like soul when it comes to like the culture and who you are, like what's your brand, what do you stand for.
Indeed. Speaking of culture, and you mentioned suspensions, what is your philosophy on suspension?
I'm glad you asked, because I know that's like sometimes that's a taboo thing and in education. I will say I believe in accountability, And I do understand that there are times where kids just need something different because there are behaviors that are really serious that warrant serious consequences beyond just stepping outside the classroom for a minute or a call home. Like our first thing is making sure kids and staff are safe. And when we threaten that, like we have to think of something different. Um, but I also don't believe that like discipline is a one size fits all thing. I never believe that either. I always feel like every kid needs something different. So if I ever walked into a school and they handed me a manual that says, if this happens, then we do this, that's like a turnoff for me, because we all don't get prescribed the same medications. We all don't get the same treatment. So I think it should be like that when it comes to behavior and things like that. Like we should look into restorative conversations. We should look into reflection. We should look into counseling. We should look into, I'm a firm believer in reverse suspensions where your family comes in instead of you going home because sometimes that's what they want. They want to be at home and there is no accountability there. It's just a day off. So I feel like the more options we have rather than just a OSS, a out of school suspension, and then you come back, I think the better because honestly, what is the kid learning when they go home and then they come right back? You're just
Right.
counting the days to the next time they do something similar or the same thing.
True indeed. If I could unpack a little bit this reverse suspension, probably very, very new to some folks. Could you just tell a little bit what that is and what the benefits have been from you engaging in that course of action?
Yes. So, of course, you're gonna have the push and pull from some families. Reverse suspension is having a family member come in and be in the classroom with their child instead of the child spending the day at home. There's no loss of instruction, but the family member is coming into the school. So there's like two different ways you could do it, and I think the wrong way to do it is the family member just comes in with the child, sits in the class. There's no conversation with any of the leadership team members, teachers, social workers, or anything. It's just the parent is there and then they leave. The right way to do it is you're greeted by myself or someone from the leadership team in the morning just to like reset expectations with the child, the reason why you're here, what they're going to experience, and then some other things we can work through while they're there, usually with a social worker. So that could look like we're going to sign you up for some in-home counseling. We're going to look into some like outpatient stuff. We're going to possibly sign you up for some social skills groups that we're going to do for X amount of weeks in the school. Does this child do any extracurricular activities? Maybe that's what they need. We're going to look that up and do that as well. So I feel like it's a whole treatment plan. It's not to be like a punishment or, oh, you got to take some time off work to come sit with your child, but like we're really setting up a whole treatment plan for the time that the family member's there. So yes, the family member does actually sit in class with their kiddo for some time, but throughout the day they're meeting with myself, they're meeting with the social workers, they might be meeting with the AP of special education if that's something that's at your school. And then we're having like a closeout meeting with the child, restamping some expectations and just making sure we're taking care of our next steps. So if there's some things that they talked about with the social work about signing up for counseling or groups, we're getting the consent form signed and things like that. So that's pretty much what reverse looks like. I've had parents who love it because they got a sneak peek at like, where's the gap? Where's my child breaking down? All right, I see what I need to do to work with them at home. And then you have parents who are like, I don't want to take off, or that's boring. I don't want to sit with my child. And then we have to have other conversations. But for the most part, I found those to be more successful than just an OSS and a kid just going home and coming back.
True indeed. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on standardized testing?
Um, I I see the importance in it. I mean, like, if we're going to speak politically, I see the financial importance of it for your schools. Is at the end of the day, it's like a business, and that's how you're going to get people to pour into your schools and brand your schools and get people to want to support your schools. Like when you have high test scores, I think it's the way that we probably glamorize testing. Like when we make it, like, are we stressing our kids out when we talk about tests are coming up and like how we just like make the whole like state testing vibe feel for our students and our staff? I think it's the stressful part. People feel like their jobs are on the line, or kids feel like my seat is on the line if I don't perform to a certain extent. Like, what's going to happen to me? I've seen it where kids are stressed out and crying and wondering what's going to happen to me. Am I going to lose my spot, in line for college if I don't perform a certain way? So I see the importance. I I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's the messages that we send around testing for our families, for our students, for our staff members.
What do you think is like the appropriate message?
Literally, I like just tell my kids they are just doing what they do every single day. They're just doing it on paper, and then we're going to see how they do against other kids their same age, same grade across the state. It's just really trying to remove all the pressures that I think some people place on them. Like, we need you to get this score or they're gonna close our school. Like, people say some crazy things thinking that's going to like enhance the scores or enhance the kids like test taking skills. So I really just like I try to make it like a relaxed environment. I get on the loudspeaker, I become their champion, and I'm like, you're really just doing what you do every single day. Like, it's just a specific day that we have set aside where kids across the state are all kind of doing the same thing right now.
What are your thoughts on SPED? Students with IEPs, compliance versus, actually moving the needle with students who may have cognitive disabilities?
That's a good question. I feel like I currently work in a school with a large SPED population. I was a teacher in a SPED classroom in an inclusion class before. Um, I think like because I am a principal in a school that is predominantly of color, I look at special education in like two ways. I think of about it as like civil rights and like a equity responsibility. Um, because when you think of like, let's like take IEPs for instance, it's supposed to represent access and support for the kid. It's not supposed to be like a reflection of any gaps or behaviors or biases. So I think like depending on where you work sometimes, SPED will show up differently in that learning environment. I've seen it where it has been equitable and it has been a service for kids because they have tried everything else. So when I say try everything else, I'm talking about like all the tier one interventions you can try before you say there might be something else there that we have to do. And
Right.
I've seen it where maybe you try one thing on the things you could do under tier one before you move to this kid might need an IEP.
Hmm.
And then when you have families who are not very educated around special education, you see where they're taken advantage of when people who have titles are then explaining to them and really don't have to over explain anything because I have this title, so it looks like I know what I'm talking about. This is what your kid needs. This is going to provide access for them. This is going to allow them to get to the front of the line with certain things because they have this label IEP 504, whatever. And families just feel like they're the expert. They know what they're talking about. If this is what I need to do to protect my child or give my child what they need, then I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I've seen it where it's done well and when it's not. And unfortunately, a lot of families don't do enough research on their own to see if there are other things they can try, exhaust everything before I resort to having to go ahead and put some other services in place.
For sure. I know that historically parents have had a bit of a distrust with the education system when it comes to diagnosis and testing. Where you think the root cause of that? I know you mentioned a lot of parents not being as educated in the field, or succumbing to the quote unquote experts, if you will, those who have titles or may have a certain degree to diagnose. But what do you think is like probably the biggest root cause, and like what's something that could be a bit of a bridge to help students and families get what they need?
Yeah, I think the distrust one is not hidden when you look at the statistics. You could look it up and see the statistics around like the gap between how many, let's just start with students of color. The amount of students with color who are given IEPs versus kids, white students or students who are not of color. And then you could break it down even further by like boys versus girls, black boys versus white boys. Like it's such a disparity. The numbers are so much higher for black students. across the state and across the country. And like I said, that's not like something you have to dig too deep in to find. Like you just type it in and it's right there. So automatically, if somebody, especially someone of color, sees that like students of color are given IEPs at a faster rate than students who are not of color, then automatically that's a red flag for them. So that's like one, that's like a sign of distrust right there. Two, when you're given these services and you don't see progress and you're not given follow up, you start to wonder what's going on as well. So that's why I say I've seen it done in schools where it's done well, where there people are being like they're holding their CST meetings, they are reaching out to families, the interventions are being put in place, and it's like a village. It's like the parent is involved, the AP SPED is involved, the teachers, everyone's on board. And then there's places where it's not like that. It's like I'm given this diagnosis, I have this folder, and then it's like, that's it. I don't hear about it until maybe I move on to the next grade band, middle school or high school, and I don't know what has been taking place in between. So I think those are the things that kind of like start to like break down trust when I'm just like, I'm not in the know and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Let's shift a little bit. So, what has changed, you think, in your opinion, either for the better or worse, with you when you were a student in school and now as an educator?
What has changed for the better? Um, Let me start with things that I miss that I wish our students and my kids could experience. I think just the time in the day and in the schedule for real life conversations. I don't know about you, Kyle, but when I was in school, I mean, we had study skills. We were learning how to take notes. We were just learning study habits.
Mm-hmm.
We had cooking class. We had sewing. Like we had home ec. We had wood shop. We just had like so many things that just made us like you didn't have to go to a technical school to get some of these skills.
Yeah, I learned how to
Um,
type in seventh grade.
Exactly. We had typing class. Like there were just things that I'm like, they just made me so much more well-rounded. Like I remember like telling my daughter, like, yeah, I had to take Latin was a requirement in sixth grade to help with
Mm-hmm.
your vocabulary.
Yeah,
So there were just like these little things that like I miss now that I wish our kids could experience. Like every school doesn't experience music.
yeah,
It looks different in every school when it comes to enrichment. There are going to be some schools where kids get to experience touching and holding instruments, and there are going to be some where it's like, what instrument? So I like miss those little things. I
mm-hmm.
think things that have probably gotten better is the autonomy around how lessons are delivered. I do feel like growing up, everything was pretty much lecture style.
Mm-hmm.
We sat in the same straight rows every single year, no matter who was teaching. It was a lot more teacher voice. There was not a lot of creativity when they delivered lessons. I don't really remember having a teacher that like made me love history until high school, and it was just the way that she taught it and brought us into the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I do see a lot more of that now. I do see a lot more creativity in how lessons are delivered. I mean, you see it on social media.
Right.
People are going viral in the ways that they're like teaching through songs and raps and podcasts and all types of things. So I do appreciate how we're coming up with different modalities to reach our learners. So I think that part is different and I like it.
Indeed. So you currently are a parent of school age children, correct?
Hmm.
But when you started out in your illustrious career, you were not a parent.
I was not.
What, if anything, has changed in your opinion, in your approach as an educator, pre and post parenting?
That's a good question. Definitely didn't start out as a parent. I didn't become a parent until 11 years into my career. I feel like I was always good with relationships and just like partnering with families and making families feel like they were my family. But I think the thing that changed for me when I became a parent is experiencing the other side, just being like way more empathetic, thinking more about how my message is landing for families. You're like preaching policy and this is what it has to be and this is how it is. But like until you become a parent and you understand, like you, it's such a vulnerable feeling you can love the school down, but to like hand your child, your most precious thing, over to somebody every single day and walk away hoping, I hope they're safe, I hope they're loved, valued today. Like for a parent, that's a big deal. So I like think about that a lot more because I have to do the same thing. So I know there are times, and I didn't understand this before, when families are like asking difficult conversations before becoming a parent. I'm like, why she questioning me? Like this is my job. But like when they're asking those difficult questions, or they're like sharing things with high emotions, I'm not as quick to like judge why they're coming at me that way. It's more so of, okay, right now they're probably coming from a place of fear or concern, um, just not knowing. And it's because we're talking about their like most important thing. So I do more of like listening to understand rather than trying to get my point across, and definitely more from like an empathetic way, than how I used to, or like less defensive. I probably was way more defensive before I was a parent because I just wanted to be right. But now I'm definitely like more of a listener, and definitely seeing how we can like partner.
Yeah. So, as a principal now, you are governing those who teach who may be parents and may not be. Is there a difference? And if so, what is it? Or is there no difference?
A difference in my teachers who are parents.
No, people who are parents versus those who aren't but are teachers.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in action. Like I've seen coworkers who were one way, and then when maternity leave is up, they come back completely different. Like, oh, you're empathetic now. Oh, okay. You can't do. Oh, you don't talk to kids like that anymore. Oh, okay, so like, you see the shift happen
Yeah.
when people become parents for sure. The funny thing about my school, which is very unique and beautiful, and including myself, a lot of the staff members, including me, our kids go to our school.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that we should like love on our kids and have that type of community, whether those are your real kids or not. But it's just a different place because it's a ton of us that have kids in our school. Um, and so I think that for me, it's very unique. A lot of the staff members who probably didn't have kids and then shifted into having them, they already had this like role as auntie or uncle because we all had our kids in this school. So they
Hmm.
were showing up as aunties and uncles for our kids, and then they ended up having their own kids. And then their kids eventually started to come to our school.
Yeah.
But I have seen the shift in people like going from not being a parent to a parent, including myself.
Awesome. Um, with the amount of time that students spend with educators in the building, I mean, just like actual physical hours, what percentage would you say is the responsibility of the school versus parents in terms of educating and raising students?
I mean, we're in school. Our day is long. Like they're with us more than they're probably with their parents. I do feel like for me and my school, we have a responsibility of not just teaching them what's supposed to come out of this curriculum, but social skills as well. Um, like just like the like smallest things, like we are walking them through every single thing, because it's not just about can you come out reading, but can you just come out of my school as a good person in general. So like, hey, when you see somebody, you speak, you say good morning. Like we're like really teaching them like just so the basic social skills, because like I said, I feel like we are with them from 7:30 a.m. till 4 p.m. and sometimes beyond. So our responsibility goes way beyond the textbooks. And just letting the families know as well, like that's that family piece, like just being partners with the families and just letting them know these are the conversations we're having, or this is what we had to talk about. I'm always on the loudspeaker, like, make sure we're taking care of that bathroom today. The bathroom looked nasty yesterday. We don't That's not how we keep our school. So it is a good mix of curriculum and home training happening in the school.
Indeed. What what's been your biggest pain point in the work, whether it's in the past or currently still is a thorn in your side?
I think like two things have always bothered me, which have like made me consider, which is why I probably left other schools. it's like when inequity shows up in like small little subtle ways. Just like low, like schools where they lower the expectations, or rigor just looks different across different classes. The way that
What
we
would be an
stack
example?
classes.
What would be an example of lowering expectations?
I have seen just so okay, if we're doing class lists for the next year,
Hmm.
putting certain kids with a certain teacher and then expecting their lessons to look different than other classrooms. I have been in schools where it's like, we're going to give Miss So and so all the kids that she can't deal with behavior management issues. It's almost like we're trying to create some, like, I don't know, invisible gifted and talented class for certain
Hmm.
teachers, and then we're going to stack this teacher with students that may have present with behavior issues, and then the curriculum will look a little different there. We'll modify some homework for that class. I've like been in schools like that,
Hmm.
and that like really bothered me. Teachers who are just like, I'm only staying till it's time to clock out. I'm not doing it any more than that.
Hmm.
Like all of that is like inequity. Like you don't want to do what's best for all the kids in the school. So I feel like that. The other pain point for me, which sometimes I get a little too passionate about it, because I don't feel like education is like a job or something like you look up and say, hey, I think I'm gonna try that. Like when I told you earlier on that when you asked me why education, I was like, that's just what I knew. Like I was born into, this is what like God had for me to do.
Hmm.
I don't like when people come into the field and that it wasn't their calling. Um, I just feel
Talking about the
like,
people that just want summers off.
yeah, like, oh, I like that, we get all this vacation time, or I'm just, transitioning between until I get to the job I really want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, stop playing with people's kids. Like, go be a barista. Go do something else until you get the job that you want. I just don't feel like this is a field where you can just play like that.
Yeah.
So when I recognize that in people, that really bothers me. So it's like pre-administration, I would just be in my feelings about it, like, she's really not about that life. Like they don't come back to school for the dances or the talent shows, or they don't put a little extra sauce in their lessons. They're just here until they get to their next thing.
Yeah.
But I think as a principal, I have the luxury of making sure I don't have those kinds of people in my building. So when that does show up, I can, have those conversations with them, and I can like do something about it, because my school is so sacred to me. I don't
Yeah.
want anybody in my building working in front of my kids, with my kids, spending time with my kids and families that I don't feel was truly called to do this work.
Yeah. What's one thing you would change if you could in education?
One thing I would change, I
Unless you
think
have to.
it's a lot. I mean, I remember I used to ask my kids, like, do you think higher education or education period needs to come with a cost?
Hmm.
Like private school, college. Like, why are we paying for something that could like enhance our economy?
Yeah.
So like paying for education, like what does that say about when you don't pay for education? Like I really try to provide an experience where you would have thought you were paying 100K a month for.
Right.
Um, so like paying for education really bothers me. And people who just can't get to where they want to go because they can't afford it.
Right.
Um, that like, I don't know. That's just like a barrier that just like really bothers me. Um, the school day sometimes, the schedule I mean, there's like so many little things
Hmm.
I would change, but I do think like paying for school is diabolical to me sometimes. And like it's funny because when I asked my fourth graders that years ago, some of them were like, I agree, we should pay, because if you don't pay, then we probably wouldn't have high quality supplies or books or things like that, because everything is free. But if you pay for it, you would have like better books, better technology, because we're paying for the things. So there were some kids that felt like we should be paying for our education. There were kids who were like, I don't think so, because I already feel like I'm not going to be able to go to the school of my choice because my
Yeah.
parents aren't going to be able to afford it. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah. So let's dream for a minute. Let's say you could create the ultimate school, what would it look like?
The ultimate school would be providing this world class education. And then when the parents go to look on the site for tuition, there's no tuition. It's going to be a waiting list because it's going to be so good. You know, people are going to want to come to the school. So I can't take everybody. There's going to be a cap, but it's going to be tuition free. Um, just like state of the art everything. Like it just like when I envision this school, it just looks like Kyle, you would do a walkthrough and just want to be hired at my school because it looks so good. Like
I hear
our
that.
cafeteria is something where kids actually want to eat every day. The food looks fresh and high quality. We're not questioning is that chicken or something else.
Right.
like I'm talking about every little detail is just like out of this world. And then like teachers, like I said, who I just feel like were called to do this work and want to be in this work, and they are like not blocking our kids from access and opportunity because every day they show up their best selves, knowing that I'm doing something more than just helping a kid get a good grade on a test, but I'm actually like leaving behind a legacy that's long gonna outlive me, but like help our community, help our economy, help our country. But kids are just provided more than just like content, massive enrichment program for our
Yeah.
kids. Field trips are like, we're not just going to Chuck E. Cheese, like we're taking meaningful trips.
Right.
Um, I don't know where I'm getting the budget, but like the budget is just like not the thing that's making us say no to things.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Being a woman of color in education, we know that it's like 1% that are actually teachers and educators. When you start to get into the admin level, it's like a fraction of a percent. What are your thoughts? Do you feel a level of responsibility? What do you feel? Do you feel anything? Any thoughts there?
A couple of years ago on the first day of school, I mean, I thought it was like dope that our kids got to see, like, oh, I never had a principal of color, and I definitely never had, obviously, a black woman be my principal. So I was like, wow, this is something different. This is cool. All my principals were white men. So when I got the position at first, it felt really good, but it wasn't until a couple of years ago, the first day of school, I had braids, and one of the new kindergartners came up to me and touched my hair and said, "You have hair like me. We have the same hairstyle." I could have fell out on the sidewalk right there crying because that just felt so good that like she
Yeah.
looked at me and just touched my hair and was like, "We have the same hair." So for the first time, I really felt like representation in
Yeah.
that moment, and I was probably like 2 years into the role. But I just love like when I get letters and stuff from like my second, third, and fourth graders because um, they can like speak to their feelings a little bit more than the younger kids. But when they talk about like, I love how you dress, I love how you talk to us, I love how you carry yourself. I'm like, those are things they're going to remember. Like I had
Yep.
this black female principal when I was in elementary school, and I like love that for them.
Yep.
I didn't have it, so I think about that a lot. I don't think about in the moment. I just think about the experience they're going to remember when they're older.
Yeah. With that said, what do you want your contribution to be? Like, what do you want to be intentional about as a leader of color, especially a woman?
It always excellence. I'll be honest. The first when I knew that I was going to become the principal of my school, I remember having a conversation with people from all different parts of my building, different titles, different roles, different grade levels. And I said, you know what? Being a black principal and having a predominantly black leadership team, and this was something different that the school just hadn't had before, I already knew it was going to be a microscope. Like, let's see how this school's going to turn out with this black leadership team and this female black principal. And I was like, I mean, as a black man of color, you always feel like you have to perform 10 times higher than everybody else just to look like you're doing something.
Hmm.
So it was just so important to me that like excellence was going to be the forefront of everything. So where there were schools that were like, oh, just dress down however you want every day, I was like, not my school. We are going to still dress business casual majority of the days of the week. And it has to look a certain way. Like, I'm big on presentation in front of our kids, and not because, I'm from the 70s or 80s or anything, or I grew up in a time where that's just how I teach. Like, it has nothing to do with that. It just has everything to do with presentation for our kids. Like, I want our kids and our families to see, like, we like care about how we look, and we give our best for our kids, and like we really care about this profession. So I was big on how we're going to dress, how we're going to speak to families, and I really sweat all of those things. And they make fun of it all the time, but like, I will send you home if you're out of dress code. Like, if you are dressed inappropriately to me, or not the way that we said we were going to dress this day, you need to go home and change. Especially on like important days, like report card days and stuff, you're going to be in front of families. We do have days where we could dress down, but for the majority of the days, we are business casual. So that was just like one thing, but I was just like, where excellence is going to be a big deal in our school. Cleanliness, sweat cleanliness. I'm like, your classroom's got to be clean and clutter free and organized. Like, imagine doing a walkthrough of your kid's school, and the bathrooms are messy and the teachers' classrooms are all over the place and there's food laying around. Like, who wants that? So I just was like big on those non-academic things that just show excellence to me.
For sure. Um, what do you see? Will you see yourself in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
Uh, Probably still doing this. That's such a, I don't know, because if you asked me this 6, 7 years ago, I'd be like, still a teacher. And then
Right.
that didn't happen. But right now, I'll stay with the now. I'll probably still be a principal. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll watch this back.
True indeed. What message do you have for educators, whether they're new in education or they've been here for a while? They're OG like you and they're principal and trying to figure it out. Like, what's Tamika's message?
There are always going to be days where you want to quit. I've definitely had those days. It is a really hard job. And you have somebody's, like I said, most important, precious thing in your hand. And you have 20 something of them in your classroom with 20 something different personalities, needs, and wants. It can be a really hard job. But I also feel like I said, you're called to do it. And you didn't get this position by chance. You're here for a reason. Um, but like, life is hard, and you got to show up every day and just give your best. I just think it is the most beautiful profession to be in, because I think the best feeling, if you stay in it long enough, is seeing the fruits of your labor when you see your kiddos grow up and see what they become, and just the things that they come back to talk to you about. When they come back and talk to me about the things that they're doing or the things that they remember, that's like my legacy right there, and that's what makes me feel good.
True indeed. I've heard people say this about your school, and so want to know if one, this is where you want your reputation to be, or what you're going for. But I've heard people say your school is a uh, elementary HBCU. Does
You
that
heard it?
is that landing?
That's landing.
Okay, okay. Say
Because
more.
I did attend the illustrious Virginia State University. I am
Okay,
a
okay,
HBCU
okay,
graduate. So I do think that is woven into the fabric of my school.
okay.
And it's not just because, oh, I went to a HBCU, so I want my school to be like that. There was nothing like that experience that I had. And it wasn't about the village and the music and the culture. It was really how the professors and the staff really loved on all of the students. Like, I remember first and last names. I remember, just, it was like your aunties and your uncles. It's a different type of feeling that they provided. Like,
Yeah,
I just never felt so safe in my life with these people that I did not know. And that's how I want my kids to feel with our staff members. So it's like beyond, like, we do have homecoming and we do have those experiences, but the day-to-day experiences that we provide our kids, from the people who work in the cafeteria all the way up to my office, I want them to just feel like they're coming to school every day with family, because that's how it feels. If you are blessed enough to attend a HBCU, you feel like you're on the yard every day with family. When you're in the classrooms, you feel like your professor is your uncle teaching in front of you, and so that's the experience I want to provide.
True indeed. Well, I appreciate you taking time to come on this little show. Real
It's a
educators
big
matter.
deal.
You are an educator and you definitely matter.
Thank
You've been in the
you.
work for a while. I think the tenure is like average is 2.9 years, so you've doubled that. So you really are in single digits when it comes to the amount of time just being in that role. It's an important role. It's a mission critical role. So appreciate you for all that you do, and hope you continue the good work and inspire folks that are coming behind you.
I appreciate you for this. And if I never said it before, I know I say it all the time, sometimes in joking ways. I learned a lot from you. And so it was just like an honor for you to even ask me to be on this space talking to you, because you always are dropping gems, even when you are not being intentional or you know it or not. So I always appreciate you and look up to you, and I'm always learning from you. So thank you for having me.
For sure. Thank you so much.